Welcome to Get Real. I'm Lynette McDonald. I'm the Director of Alumni at ISKL. It's my great pleasure to see our students and some of our faculty here as well today. Get Real is a collaboration between ISKL's High School Counselling Department and the ISKL Alumni Department. We set it up so that our ISKL high school students would be able to get a real experience and understanding of life at university in different parts of the world from ISKL alumni who are currently studying or working there. Over the past few months, we have had two previous Get Real events, one that took us to North America, another that took us to Korea. And today I'm very pleased to say that we are going to Canada, and indeed to Toronto in Canada. It's my great pleasure to introduce Kritika Agrawal. Kritika is a third-year Rotman Commerce student at the University of Toronto. And rather than me telling you her story, I'm going to pass it over to Kritika now, and she's going to tell us all about what her choices were when she was at ISKL, how she came to decide on Toronto, and the way that her course is running at the moment and the opportunities that she has had there. Kritika, over to you.
Thanks, Lynette. So my name is Kritika. As she said, I am going into my third year at Rotman Commerce at the University of Toronto. I am specializing in accounting with a minor in economics, just doing a Bachelor of Commerce, so just business school. Currently, I'll tell you all a little bit about myself. I'll tell you what I'm doing right now, and then I'll go back to 3 years ago when I made the exact same decision you guys were making. So currently, I am involved on campus. Classes are starting again in person, so I'm very excited about that. I am part of the Rotman Commerce Accounting Society, where I'm the Director of Marketing. I also just started an organization, which is a startup, which helps high school students get mentorship and guidance from university students and help them get into the university of their choice and basically help them mentor their way through that application process, exactly what you guys are doing right now. It's an organization called Brew. Alongside that, I recently just started a teaching position at my university where I'm teaching management accounting. So I'm very excited about that as well. And going back to more ISKL, I graduated in 2019. In ISKL, I did a bunch of different extracurriculars. I was part of student council. I was a peer helper for a year. What else did I do? I did prom committee, service council, and a bunch of different things like that. So now more to my decision as to why I chose University of Toronto. So exactly 3 years ago, I was very confused on where to apply. I had no clue what I was doing, what decisions to make. I was looking into a lot of different countries. I applied to Hong Kong, UK, as well as Canada. And in the end, the reason why I ended up choosing Canada was more so because I didn't want to just look at rankings, which of course, University of Toronto is a very prestigious school. I did also want to look at other things that mattered to me a lot, such as the fact that U of T, University of Toronto, is located right in the middle of the city, and I really like living in cities just like KL, so that really mattered to me. The university is really big, so I get to meet a lot of new people. It's a very international university, more so than ISKL, if you can even imagine that. So you feel right at home. The transition was really smooth, and all the students here are from all over the place. I've met so many people from the IAS's community and people who know ISKL, people who have connections with me, which is quite amazing, I'd say. Other than that, I think another big decision was the long-term opportunities. So Canada was a really easy country for me to immigrate to and look at future possibilities because there are a lot of job opportunities available. You get a lot of time to look for a job, basically, and that mattered to me because I'm not Canadian. So as an international student, I do want those opportunities open to me. As well, it was close to family. My parents just moved to the States when I graduated from Malaysia, so that was also a big point for me. other than that, I guess I do know that ISKL isn't really geared towards Canada. I was like that. I was exactly in the same shoes. And Mr. Wiener, he was my counselor. He told me about this program. He told me about Rotman Commerce and the Prestige. And I looked into it, I researched, and I realized this program was quite the perfect fit for me. It had a lot of options, a lot of extracurriculars were available for me. Of course, the international student aspect was really big for me because I moved around a lot growing up. And the program itself, just the fact that there was so much flexibility in what I wanted to do, because it's actually a dual faculty program. I get to be part of the business school, but as well also part of the arts and science faculty. So I can minor in things like sociology, criminology, psychology, computer science, economics, like I'm doing, or even film studies and so many different things like that. So I think that was a really big factor for me, because I felt like I wasn't just stuck in that one thing that I thought was perfect for me, because obviously I wasn't sure what I wanted to do. I still don't know what I want to do. So that's completely fine if you guys don't know what you want to do in your future. Everyone's in the same boat. Yeah, and in terms of the application process, U of T is quite straightforward to apply to. I think you just submit your predicted grades for most programs. There are some programs such as the business school, as well as engineering and computer science programs, I believe, that require you to do supplementary applications. So for example, for my application, I had to do a pre-recorded interview setup. So I think I had a 30-minute time frame where I had a couple questions show up. I had to answer those questions, and I also had a few essays I had to write on the spot, as well as I think one essay question I got to prepare beforehand. So that is definitely a part of the application if you do decide to apply to Rotman Commerce. But other than that, it's quite predicted grades based, and the requirements are quite low to get into U of T, which is quite surprising, but that's because usually you get in first year and then you have to apply to your program in second year. So you get kind of a free choice first year what courses you want to take. You can actually change up if you don't get into the program you wanted to. You can actually just go into the university and change it up later, apply for it second year. And that's why it's relatively easier to get into University of Toronto in first year, because you actually apply through your grades in university throughout your first year, the end of your first year. Yeah, so I don't want to just keep talking. I do want to answer questions that you guys particularly have about things you were wondering about my experience in Canada. It's not that cold, I swear, at least not in downtown Toronto, because it's all concrete. There's nowhere for the snow to settle. So it's really not that cold. But yeah, any questions you might have about Canada, about U of T, about business school, moving, anything like that, yeah, just feel free to ask.
How different is it from living in Malaysia to living in Canada?
I think the only thing that's a little different, I'd say, is the weather. Obviously, it's not warm, so you do need to get a little bit used to that. The temperature goes from during the school year, I'd say it's about 20 degrees to negative 20 degrees, but the negative 20 degrees is quite rare. It doesn't happen that often. It's only in like January, February. Other than that, it's a big city. There's a lot of public transport, which is also another reason I really love it there, because I don't know how to drive. So for me, it's very easy to get around. There's, yeah, as I said, tons of public transport, exactly like living near KLCC area, I'd say. In terms of people, a lot of international people. I see so many Indians. I've never lived around so many Indians, but I'm Indian. I haven't seen that many Indians since I lived in India. So that was quite a shocker for me. A lot of international people, I'd say. Yeah, I'd say it's pretty similar, except the weather bit.
Kritika, could you talk a bit about your living situation, your first couple of years at University of Toronto? What college were you in? How did the colleges work? What do you love about your college? What do you hate about it?
Yeah, definitely. So in U of T, if you're in the Faculty of Arts and Science, there's 7 colleges. That's because the university is so big, they can't manage all of the students on their own. So they have colleges, and each of the colleges have their own residences. So I was in the Wordsworth College. I loved my college a lot. It's a New York college, so I stayed in residence for the first 2 years actually, and the residence was an apartment style residence. I didn't want to share my rooms, neither did I want communal bathrooms, so that was a perfect situation for me. A lot of the other residences, if you do prefer having the dorm life, they do have that as well. Most other residents also have food, meal plans. Mine was a kitchen, so it didn't have that, but that is also available for you. Basically, yeah, the 7 colleges, how they work is that when you apply to U of T, you have to rank your colleges. I would do my research and look at the different personalities of the colleges because they're very, very real. If you go to the business program, most people do go to Wordsworth College. So that's where I applied. That's why I applied to that college. They all have different things such as scholarships, extracurriculars, and some of them are very prestigious too. Some of them are older. So they have a lot more scholarships, applications, and you actually have to apply to get into those colleges like Victoria College and Trinity College. But of course, yes, there's an extra application, but that means opportunities to more scholarships and events and things like that. Living situations. So most people live on campus first year. You get a first year residence guarantee as an international student if you apply by a certain deadline. And after that, people move off campus. So I recently moved off campus. I'm living in a condo with one of my friends, just a little, actually more towards core downtown. So I really like that. It's around a lot of foods and restaurants and things like that. And it's only about a 15-minute subway ride. Okay, I see a question. I know I've known some people who said that the competition is quite high in U of T once you get in, especially for a business major. Is this true? So if you apply for the business major, so for example, Rotman Commerce, you actually have to apply for it right away. It works a little differently from the other programs. And you don't need to really compete for it. All you need to do is meet the minimum grade requirement and you get it. For other programs, you need to apply. But for Rotman Commerce, because you already went through that application process, all you need to do is get the grade and you're in. Obviously, if you don't get into Rotman Commerce and you go in through, like, for example, psychology, and then you apply to Rotman Commerce, it's a lot harder just because you didn't get in the first time. I hope that answers your question. Okay, next. How are the classes there, like example size, lecture, or interactive style? Similar to IB. Okay, so the classes depend so I'll talk more about my experience. So for example, in the economics departments of the classes I had to take, just because of the dual faculty, they were a lot bigger. Some of my classes were 500 people, but I do know some classes in the university go up to 2,000. Not sure if that still works out because of the pandemic, but the university is really big. However, in my program, as you go on, your class sizes get smaller and smaller. So right now, my classes, most of them are capped at 45 to 50 people, and they're very interactive. Participation is a big part of business school. You have lots of group projects. They encourage you to talk a lot. I used to be very shy in high school, and now I'm here talking in front of all of you. So that's definitely a big part of it.
How would you describe the social life and work load and life balance?
So I'm not going to lie, U of T is known to be quite difficult compared to all of the other universities in Canada. It's known to be very hard on your grades, but I think it's very doable. If you've done IB, I think it's very similar. It's all about time management. There's a lot of different activities and clubs you get involved in, and you can meet a lot of people through that. So it's about finding the right people, I'd say, and doing things that you want to do. The balance part of it's a little hard to adjust to. I think that's in every university, though, not just U of T, I'd say. But it does get better as you get used to it. And yeah, but definitely U of T is known to be more on the studious and prestigious side. But in my opinion, it was still quite social. That's not the same opinion of most people who go within North America. But I think coming from a very Asian background, it was still very social for me.
Thank you.
Yeah, of course.
I have a question. So,
Yeah.
are there any student traditions in the UT?
What exactly do you mean by student traditions?
Like any event that you do every year or anything in general?
Okay, so we're not really big on sports, but I do really like orientation that we have for students. I remember my orientation, it was really big. There were a lot of people, a lot of cheers. We do this thing where all of the three, so there's 3 campuses at U of T, the downtown campus, there's one in Mississauga and there's one in Scarborough. They all come to downtown and we do a big march around downtown and cheer with our colleges. It's really fun. Orientation week was honestly a really nice week. We did a boat cruise, we had a club night, a lot of events like that. We went to the beach. So I'd say, yeah, definitely one of the traditions I think is like orientation week. I think that comes with any university, but I think the college spirit that U of T has is quite interesting.
I have a question.
Yeah.
How long did it take you to like live, like to settle down and like move in there?
So I move in was basically like 2 days. I went, my parents actually helped me move. So they came with me and we bought everything. We moved into residence and everyone's super nice there. That's what Canada is known for, right? Nice people. They help you move in. They help you settle down. There's lots of events and things to help you navigate the university, the campus, as well as the city. And I think it honestly was a very easy transition. I think a couple weeks in, I knew my way around. I knew how to get around and do things. Yeah.
I have a question. You've mentioned criminology. Is this something that I could like apply in my first year, or like is it like a subtopic that
You can apply for it as a full program. So I think they have a criminal. So how U of T works is that they have a specialist major and minor, as well as certificate. So almost every program is available in all those levels. A specialist is obviously the highest level. You have to do a lot more credits related to that program. And you can apply for the others. So if you're interested in criminology, you can apply for it straight away, if that's what you want to do. Obviously, if your primary application is, for example, Rotman Commerce, that works a little differently from the other. So you're not going to be able to apply to like a minor, but if that's your major, then you can definitely just apply for it straight away.
Okay, thank you.
I had a question. I'm sorry.
Oh, I was just going to clarify something. So how U of T works is that you apply to a general program rather than a specialist major, minor, whatever like that is. So I think for all of the sciences, it's just called Life Sci. You just apply for life sciences, and then you, in your first year, you apply for the major and minor, specialist, things like that. So you need to decide that right now.
I had a question on applications. Did you apply during early decision or regular decision? And did you feel that there were any advantages to early decision if you did apply during it?
I don't quite remember. I don't think U of T had necessarily an early decision. It's just that the international student deadline was already quite early. And because my program had a supplementary application, I had to apply, I think by November. And the applications roll out in March. So it was one of the latest decisions you do get out of all the other universities, because I applied to UK and those universities usually come out in December, Jan. But I don't think they do. I don't think they have an early decision, but I might be wrong on that.
No, you are correct. So Canadian universities don't follow the American tradition of early decision. Their deadline this year is technically January 13th for most programs, but you are well served by applying for their priority deadline, which is early November. Really, programs fill up. So the priority is get your app in sooner than later, early November. Talk to your counselor, and I happen to be yours, Christopher. So let's chat. You got a year. You're way ahead of the curve.
Kritika, I had a question about how you found the support services there. You know, obviously you worked with your wonderful counselor, Mr. Weiner at ISKL. And I wonder if you sought out those services, if they were easy to find. Do you have an academic advisor assigned to you? Like, can you talk a little bit about like what it's like once you get there?
Yeah, so because of the way my program works, it is dual faculty. So I actually have access to advisors within, so I have access to my college advisor as well as a Rotten Commerce advisor. They have academic advisors, they have career coaches, as well as peer mentors. So academic advisors is obviously people you go to depending, based on your degree, how you wanna structure it, things like that. Career coaches are people who help you decide what career path you want to take, help you with your job application, what kind of internships you want to go with. And peer mentors are other students, upper year students who are in the same boat, usually who have internships, who have done it, and they help you basically give a more relaxed opinion. They help you with their resumes and cover letters when you apply for jobs, things like that. If you apply for grad school, they help you with that. It was very organized. There's a portal that we have. We just go on the portal, we just apply, put an appointment. And I think I only met with my academic advisor, I think once. That's because I got really lucky because of the extracurriculars I was in. The accounting society, all of the students in the accounting society actually guided me through the recruitment process, and I was able to get recruited by a firm already. So I had that sorted because of that. So yeah, definitely students are really helpful. They do help you get a job. They help you guide your way through everything. So it's not just faculty, but also students.
I have a question. What helped you decide what you wanted to study? Like, was there ever a point where you felt conflicted about what you wanted to study?
Yeah, definitely. So I think I chose business school because I did like talking to people. I like getting involved. I like working in teams, and I wasn't quite sure what career path I really wanted to take within that. And then I came to U of T, and I had the option to choose between 3 specialists, which is the management specialist, the finance and economic specialist, and the accounting specialist. Accounting obviously sounds very intimidating, but I chose it because I have no clue what I want to do. So I will try to explain myself here. In the accounting specialist, my mindset was that if I choose the accounting specialist, I will work towards my CPA, which is the Certified Public Professional Accountant designation. And for me, that will open up a lot of doors, and I can work in a lot of different industries after that. So that's why I'm doing this, because I'm still not quite sure what I want to do. So obviously, there's a lot of different paths within business school that you can take. That's why they have the 3 different specialists. And the good thing is you are able to switch from them pretty easily. I know people who have switched who are at my level in 3rd year, and they're still switching their specialists because they're not quite sure what they want to do.
I have another question.
Yeah.
As far as I know, you don't have to write an essay, but you talked about an essay that you had to write on the spot or the interview. So can you please elaborate on that?
Yeah, so when you apply to U of T, you don't have to write it, but for Rotten Commerce, you have a supplementary application, which is a whole different platform, and they tell you all about it. It's on their website. They have all of the details, and basically how it works is that they have one prompt already there on the website, and you can just prepare. It's very simple prompts. There are things like, I don't even remember, but they're usually quite simple and behavioral style. So things like, what is an example of teamwork, or things like that. And yeah, as Mr. Reen said, it's only for a few programs. So I know Rotten Commerce is one of them. And I think most of the life sciences is just your grades. Social science is also just your grades. I believe engineering requires an extra one because I'm not quite sure, their process is quite different. It's not in the same faculty as me. They don't have the whole colleges thing either. They're just one big faculty. But yeah, the essay, they weren't hard. They weren't technical at all. They were very behavioral style, things like talk about one person who influenced you in your life, or like I said, one leadership experience that you've had, things like that.
I have another question. So what's something that people wouldn't know unless they actually attended the university?
That's a really good question. I'd say it's a lot. It's not necessarily harder, it's just a lot more work. It's the same work you do in IB, I'd say, like the content-wise, like difficulty is the same, if not easier. It's just a lot more in a condensed period of time, and it's all about organization, completely all about organization, because for a lot of us, it's going to mean living alone. So you have to do everything from doing your chores to cooking, cleaning, and going to class. And the fact that it's a lot more independent. So you do need to manage your own time. Your professors aren't going to tell you to give in your assignment or do your homework. You can decide not to do them. That's completely on you. So yeah, I'd say I think that's the best way to describe it. It's not necessarily harder. It's just a lot more work.
I just wanted to ask if you were allowed to sort of take a pause on your course, like let's say after 2 years, and then go for a job for a year and then continue back. Does University of Toronto allow that?
So they do have a thing called professional experience year that you can apply for, and it's a whole process that you have to go through. I personally didn't look into it too much because I wasn't really sure how it worked out with the legalities of my visa, because on your student visa, you do have to go with your degree. But I believe if you apply for the proper professional experience year, it is part of you do get permission from your university and you can do that. So you can take a year off and you can work for a full year. Also, what actually works really perfectly is because of the way University of Toronto has structured their course dates, their start dates and end dates, you actually get a full 4-month period in summer. So that is actually a full term of work. So every summer, people usually use those 4 months for a different internship. And basically, that means a smaller winter break. But I think University of Toronto structured it that way because Raleigh Commerce doesn't have a co-op program.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Kritika, you mentioned that the people in the club that you're involved in helped you to get into, I think it's an internship that you're going into. Can you tell us about the internships that are available or how accessible they are for you?
Yeah, for sure. So again, because of the whole dual faculty thing, I have access to 2 different job portals. So it's the same portal that I talked about where you go to apply for getting an appointment with an academic advisor, things like that. And we have this, on that portal, we have events calendars. So there's a lot of these companies that reach out to U of T that come in and for campus recruitment, as well as jobs. And because U of T is known to be the top university in Canada, most employers actually look for University of Toronto students. So that does put you at an edge, obviously, because people are actively looking for people who are studying at the University of Toronto. And there's a lot of campus recruitment events, a lot of opportunities to get involved. So for example, the club that I'm involved in actually does events exclusive to accounting. So we do events with the accounting firms, the Big Four accounting firms, and those firms come in, the recruiters come in and talk to people, they host events, things like that. And we have societies and clubs for every type of career path. So for example, if you want to go into marketing or fashion brand management, or if you want to do things like consulting, investment banking, accounting, there's different clubs, different societies for all of them. And there's events across the board for each of them.
Also, that would mean that it's relatively easy to get a job after graduating in Canada, because I understand like in the US, it might be difficult to get a job afterwards. So would you say it's not easier, but you have a higher chance of like ending up living there afterwards? If that's
Yeah, I know. I understand exactly what you mean. And I do think it is a lot easier just because in Canada, your visa, your employment visa doesn't depend on the fact that you're an international student. So in the States, you need to get sponsored by your employer. So a lot of times when employers look at the fact that you're not American and you're not a citizen, they don't want to hire you. It's happened with a lot of my friends. But in Canada, that doesn't impact your application at all. So you're at the same standing as any of the other people who are applying, any of the Canadians who are applying, for example. Because how it works is that after I graduate, I get a graduate visa for 2 years, I believe. And then actually within a year of working, you can apply for your permanent residency. So you don't even need to apply for extend your graduate visa, but you can as well because you graduate from Canada.
I'm just going to jump in there. Across Canada, if you're an international student, you can work 20 hours a week on campus. You could also be eligible for co-op. After you graduate, you can spend up to 3 years working in Canada. Your education and your work count towards immigration if you so choose. So it actually has a pathway to citizenship, which is one of the advantages that Kritika is talking about. And so you could stay there looking for a job if the economy was so-so. Generally speaking, if you work with your advisor, if you develop talents and skills that are in demand, you're likely to find good success from a place like Rotman into your chosen path.
Yeah, it definitely, the 20 hours you can work actually on campus and also off campus. So I did a part-time job in my first year where I worked for a tutoring company, and I tutored students for IELTS. And for example, my teaching assistant position right now would count towards those 20 hours as well.
Kritika, as we kind of wrap up here and you think back to where you were on September 15th of your senior year, what are a few tips that you can give this group to think about as they move forward in their search and application process this year?
I definitely say try to look at the whole picture. Don't just look at rankings, because world rankings really don't matter. It matters by country. I'd say you're not competing against students all across the world. You're working within the country, and actually really look into the fact that things that really matter to you, things like the size of the place you're living, or the country, the weather conditions, the people there, city versus campus, university. I didn't think about that too much, and I realized I ended up applying to universities in smaller places and didn't want to end up going there because I wanted to live in a big city. So really try to look at the whole picture. Not everyone's decision is the same, and everyone has different factors that matter to them. So definitely don't just focus on rankings, I'd say. Yeah, and don't stress too much. It's really not that bad. I think you'll be fine anywhere you guys go.
Wait, could I ask one final question?
Yeah.
Do you think you picked U of T mostly because of its specific program, or more because of the other factors like the location and things like that?
I think it was a combination of all. I did get lucky because the program is really prestigious and quite famous in Canada itself, but definitely I wasn't thinking about Canada a lot when I was applying to universities. It was kind of at the back of my mind. It was just a safe option. But as I looked more into it, as I did more research, I realized I actually, those factors really did matter to me. So yeah, I'd say it was a good balance of the two.
Kritika, and I'm just going to add that it was a perfect fit, right? Like in the end, it was the perfect fit of program and environment. Mm-hmm. And even though you didn't know necessarily or weren't sure about any of that, like it all came together that I think allowed you to make the decision that you did. And now you're on the other side, which is lovely to see.
Mm-hmm. There was a lot of back and forth, and Mr. Weiner knows about that. I went from wanting to go to Hong Kong to UK to, yeah, it was a lot of back and forth, but in the end, yeah, so don't worry about changing your mind. You're not stuck to one thing right in the beginning. You have a lot of time to make your decision. So yeah, definitely look into all the factors.
And I think on that note, I would like to say thank you so much to Kritika Agrawal, class of 2019, for joining us today from Toronto. Really great to have your experience, your knowledge to share with everybody. And thank you to all of the students who prepared some really interesting questions. I think we all gained a lot of knowledge about university life in Toronto from today. And Kritika has very kindly agreed to answer any additional questions that you might have. So if you have any questions, please just direct them through Ms. Cook to Kritika, and we will be able to put you in touch with her. I'm sure there are many things that we'll start start gelling in your mind overnight as you remember what you've heard here today. But thank you very much for coming along. It's been great to have you here for this Canada episode of Get Real, and we look forward to seeing you at our next event as well. Thank you.